Many months ago, NASCAR promised its fans that 2021 would see more changes in 1 year than NASCAR had seen in decades. Well, today, NASCAR fulfilled that promise, for better or worse. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to a very exciting Out of the Groove episode. We have been waiting for this day since April. Originally, the 2021 schedule was supposed to be released on April Fool's Day. Well, the joke was on all of us with the pandemic. That's been delayed months after month after month. Well, finally, here at the very end of September, NASCAR has released the entire 2021 schedule. Originally, there were reports that they might release the schedule in segments. That apparently has turned out to not be true. NASCAR dropped the entire 36 Cup race schedule on us earlier today. Of course, details of the schedule have been leaking out for the last couple days. We've discussed a little bit on the show, but today I'm going to attempt to unpack all of the dramatic changes to next year's NASCAR schedule. 2021 was supposed to be the next gen year of NASCAR. Originally, that was when the next gen car was going to debut, and NASCAR, like I said at the beginning of the show, has been promising for years at this point that 2021 would bring about new schedule changes, new tracks. Well, with the pandemic, the new car has been pushed back to 2022, but NASCAR still followed through on their new tracks promise. So I'm going to look at the entire schedule today. We're going to look at it together. I'm going to show you guys my thoughts on some of the more radical changes, and then we'll just talk about what we're most excited about and what we're maybe dreading in 2021. I'll say this, I'll start off. NASCAR made a lot of changes. Some I really like, some I'm a little less excited about, but more than anything, I'm excited that NASCAR is clearly trying to introduce its fans to a new era. It's fair to say that what NASCAR has been doing for the last 5 to 10 years is not bringing in new fans at the rate NASCAR is hoping for and likely needs to stay relevant for many years down the line. So I'm excited to see NASCAR make some big changes, and many of the changes we're about to talk about I think are very exciting. So let's get started. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to go in chronological order. So the NASCAR Cup Series season is expected to start February 11th at Daytona, the road course configuration for the Busch Clash. That race will be run on a Thursday. 3 days later, February 14th, the Daytona 500 will be run on Valentine's Day. And then the next week, they'll stay in Florida and head a few hours down south to Homestead Miami Speedway for the second points-paying race of the Cup season. So I'll stop right there. We already knew that the Busch Clash was expected to run the Daytona road course configuration at the start of next year. That had already been announced. Of course, the Daytona road course saw its first bit of NASCAR action earlier this summer when the Cup Series trucks, ARCA, and Xfinity Series all ran there. It was okay. The biggest thing to take a look at as we go through the schedule here is the sheer number of road courses that are going to be on the Cup Series schedule. The Busch Clash starts out with one right out the gate, so it sets the tone early. I already talked about last week Homestead Miami being moved to the second race of the season as opposed to jumping right out into the West Coast swing. NASCAR is billing this as a way to sell fans on staying in Florida for a full week. Watch Daytona and stay for Homestead. Maybe that'll work, maybe that won't. I personally think they're really moving Homestead Miami up closer in the year because they're more confident that Florida is going to allow a large crowd at that race than maybe like Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which was the second race of the year this season. COVID is still very much going to come into play at the beginning of next year, and it's worth pointing out that this schedule is still very tentative. Things can still change. We'll go and move on. From there, we'll jump into the West Coast swing a week later than this year. Auto Club, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. Reminder, Auto Club will still be run at the 2-mile traditional configuration. Construction on the new Auto Club short track is not expected to start until after this race is over. Then they'll head to Atlanta for Atlanta's first race of the season. That's right, I said first. We'll get to that in a moment. And following that, March 28th, Bristol, the spring race is being turned into a dirt race. All right, we got to pause right there. Bristol Motor Speedway is my favorite track on the NASCAR schedule, the normal Bristol Motor Speedway. Apparently, Bristol and NASCAR are going to cart in tons of dirt, and they're going to cover the surface with it for the March 28th NASCAR Cup Series race. It's going to be the first NASCAR Cup Series race run on dirt in over 50 years. Goodness gracious. Now, this is not the first time Bristol Motor Speedway has turned itself into a dirt track. In the years 2000 and 2001, they turned it into a dirt track for the World of Outlaws sprint cars and dirt late models to run a couple races there. And so we do have some video and photos of roughly what the track is going to look like. Now, this is before the track was somewhat reconfigured to add progressive banking, so it looks maybe a little different than it's going to look this year. But my goodness. Now, the local Bristol paper, the Bristol Herald-Courier, reported that Fox Sports was kind of the clear decision maker. They were the ones pressuring NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports to make this change. Clearly, Fox, who's going to be airing the race, believes that this is going to drum up extra attention for this event and likely will be a quick ratings win for them compared to the last several years, where the Bristol Spring Race has consistently been overshadowed by its late summer partner. So I'll just be honest, I'm mixed on this decision. Like I said, the normal Bristol configuration is my favorite track on the schedule, but it's pretty clear that the spring Bristol date has seen struggling attendance. TV ratings numbers have been pretty stagnant the last couple years. Clearly, the spring date was in need of some sort of pick-me-up, which is a shame because the spring Bristol race has often been the better of the two Bristol races each year. I mean, even on Jeff Gluck's, was it a good race poll? This year's spring Bristol race was the highest reviewed race since Gluck started that poll, I think in like 2016. So in the last 4.5 years, that was the most popular race, at least according to fans on Twitter. So I do really hate to see that race change, but let's separate this. There's some pros and there's some cons. First, let's start with the pros. The pros of changing the last great Coliseum into the next great dirt track. Pros, Bristol is just an epic venue to watch a race at. 150,000 seats. It literally is a coliseum. Seeing these big heavy cars slip and slide around that half-mile racetrack is going to be a sight to behold. Another pro turning this into a dirt track is we might see some different players up near the front. I mean, most of the drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series are not thought of as particularly great dirt racers. Many drivers in the Cup Series have little to no experience racing dirt at any level of motorsports, but some drivers who do have dirt experience might have an inherent advantage at this race. So we might see drivers like, I think of Christopher Bell, who's a rookie this season, hasn't gotten a win yet, but next season, obviously we know how great he is on dirt and sprint cars and whatnot. You never know, this could play into Christopher Bell's hands, and maybe Christopher Bell, this is a great shot for him to get his first career Cup Series win early next season. So we might see some different players near the front. That is a positive. And of course, I already hit on this, but this very well could and likely will boost some interest in the spring Bristol date, at least for next season. I don't know if this stays for several years, the luster might wear off eventually, but at least for next year, I would expect more tickets to be sold and I would expect higher TV ratings for this race. But I'm not really sure if that's going to last. Now, there are some cons, and I am going to focus on some cons here because, like I said, I am very mixed. I love when NASCAR tries new things, especially something crazy and zany like this, but man, this is a tough one for me, so there are some cons. My biggest con, and this is going to be difficult to explain. Some of you guys are probably going to roll your eyes at me, quite honestly, but I do think this has some weight behind it. The NASCAR Cup Series is supposed to be the most prestigious stock car racing series in the entire world. And if we just look at sheer popularity, if we look at the numbers, if you look at the money involved, the NASCAR Cup Series is the largest and most prestigious motorsport series of any kind in the United States. But like I said earlier, NASCAR drivers are not the best dirt racers in the world. If I wanted to go watch the best dirt racers race on a dirt track, I would more than likely go watch the World of Outlaws. These are supposed to be the best stock car drivers in the world, and yes, they will still be driving stock race cars, but they're going to be driving them in conditions that they are not the best drivers in the world at. Minus a few drivers. I mean, Christopher Bell is obviously a great dirt racer. If Kyle Larson's in the Cup Series next year and races in this race, obviously he's a fantastic dirt racer. So there are some exceptions, but I just worry that this race is going to be sloppy. I worry this race is going to be chaotic and unorganized, and I just worry it's going to, in a lot of ways, be a black eye for the NASCAR Cup Series in the eyes of other motorsports around the country and around the world. Look, I love chaotic and unpredictable races from time to time, but this might go too far. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to reserve judgment until we actually see it, but I am concerned, and I think that's a fair concern to have. Will the race actually be entertaining? We just don't know. It might be so messy that it's not even fun to watch. That's a real concern I have. Another concern, the weather. I mean, the spring Bristol races often faced weather issues, no matter what month they seem to run it in. If a rain happens on a dirt track and turns it into mud, it could spell doom for the entire event. So that certainly has me concerned. I'm just not sold on a Bristol dirt race being run by the NASCAR Cup Series. It doesn't quite add up. It doesn't quite compute for me just yet. I mean, why'd you have to go run Bristol anyways? You could have run Eldora, a dirt track in Ohio that seats over 30,000 fans. Like, you could have gone to a purpose-built dirt track. Instead, you're going to kind of try and turn Bristol into something it's not really supposed to be, and it feels extremely forced. I get it, SMI owns it. SMI wanted to drum up support for their track. Maybe we could have gone to another SMI dirt track, could have gone to the Charlotte one or Texas or Las Vegas, but they probably couldn't have fit the crowd they wanted to. So maybe this event will be a huge success, but I am very concerned, and it's hard for me to say one way or the other whether it's going to be a huge success or a huge failure at this point. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, like I've said before, in this day and age, I am all for NASCAR trying something new, experimenting, and you never know. This could turn into an all-time classic. This could be spectacular. So I'm not going to poo-poo it too much. I just want to express my concerns because Bristol is my favorite track on the schedule. And if they're going to change it, they better have a good reason for changing it. So I hope it's a great race next year. I mean, I might try to go to the race. It sounds awesome. It sounds like something we may never see again. So go for it. We'll see what happens. But that's the first big big news on the schedule for next season. Let's look back at the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. After the Bristol Dirt Race, they will have an off weekend to start April. Then Martinsville will return for what I assume will be another night race. It's scheduled for Saturday, April 10th, probably a Martinsville night race. Then Richmond, Talladega, Kansas, and the first, again I'll say first, Darlington race of the season, followed then by the one and only race at Dover International Speedway, and then the first points-paying road course of the season will be May 23rd at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. This was first reported a few weeks back by The Athletic. We talked about it a little bit then, but of course Circuit of the Americas was built in 2012. It was a purpose-built Formula One track, which has since held 8 Formula One US Grand Prix. They also hold IMSA races, MotoGP, and last year, for the first time, hosted an IndyCar event. The traditional road course configuration is about 3.5 miles, but there are a couple variants they could use, and they very well might use. NASCAR and Circuit of the Americas has not yet said which type of configuration they will run for the NASCAR Cup Series next year, but COTA's here. COTA's happening. I've already raved about the location. It's centrally located in between 3 big cities in Texas. They can hold over 100,000 fans. They've got that 250-foot tall observation tower, which is quite eye-catching. They have a massive amphitheater for live concerts. As someone who lived in Austin for several years and has been to several racing events at Circuit of the Americas, I can tell you guys it's a super nice facility. So I'm very excited to see Circuit of the Americas on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. But how did this happen? Circuit of the Americas is taking a points-paying date away from its distant relative, not relative, they're actually kind of bitter enemies at this point, but they're taking a date away from Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth. We'll talk more about Texas Motor Speedway in a minute, but Speedway Motorsports, who owns Texas Motor Speedway, is actually involved with Circuit of the Americas. They are actually renting Circuit of the Americas and will be the chief promoters for this new NASCAR Circuit of the Americas event. I'm not really sure how that works. I assume money's changing hands. I'm sure they're paying COTA and the people who own COTA something for the right to rent the track and host an event there. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it is worth noting that Speedway Motorsports, who technically I guess had to give up a date from one of their tracks to go to COTA, is still very much involved in promoting the COTA race. Super interesting, but I am very excited. I hope fans turn out for this race. I was at the IndyCar race last year when IndyCar made their debut, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a great show, a great facility. It'll be interesting to see how the NASCAR Cup cars race at this track. Tony Stewart did a single car test there last year, and afterwards he had rave things to say about the track. He thought it would put on a great Cup Series event, so I'll take smoke at his word. I'm hyped. COTA is probably the nicest road course facility in the United States, so I'm excited to see NASCAR race there next season. That's going to be awesome. We'll keep moving on. May 30th, I believe that's Memorial Day weekend once again. The Coca-Cola 600 will be run at Charlotte as usual. Then Sonoma will be run June 6th. Then the next week, Texas for the All-Star race. Another thing we already talked about, but yes, Texas Motor Speedway, while it may be losing one of its points-paying dates to COTA, they are going to host the All-Star race next season. I know, not super exciting. Texas Motor Speedway, not really a fan favorite, but hey, at least we don't have to sit through 2 500-mile races at Texas Motor Speedway. Maybe a little sprint race like this with all the stages and whatnot will be exactly what Texas Motor Speedway was built for. Maybe it'll be a better race than we're all expecting. I guess for that race at least, we'll keep our expectations low. Maybe it'll blow our minds. It probably won't, but there you have it. Texas Motor Speedway's first race of the season is not until June, and it's the All-Star race. After Texas, though, looking back at that schedule, we've got Nashville Super Speedway, followed then by the Pocono doubleheader. They'll get another shot. Now, I'm not a big Pocono Raceway fan, but I am excited to see them run a doubleheader next year. Hopefully next year they're allowed to have fans in attendance. This year's doubleheader was run without fans, so that kind of defeated the purpose, but I thought it was a neat idea, so I'm excited to see them try it out with fans next season. Hopefully fans in the area turn out for it. But focusing in on Nashville Super Speedway, another brand new track to the NASCAR Cup Series. It's a 1 1/3 mile concrete oval that's actually owned by the people who own Dover International Speedway, which is why they're basically getting Dover's second date. The track opened in 2001 and hosted Xfinity and Truck Series events until 2011. This was actually first announced a couple months ago, and immediately a lot of the fan reaction was, why not Nashville Fairgrounds, the half-mile historic short track near downtown? Why Nashville Super Speedway? Nobody asked for that. Nashville Super Speedway, as great a track as it is, it's not in any physical shape to host a NASCAR Cup Series race weekend or crowd. NASCAR has made it very clear that this Super Speedway date at Nashville Super Speedway is really just to get invested in the Nashville market. IndyCar is running the Music City Grand Prix there next year. It's going to be a street race in downtown Nashville. So motorsports of all kinds are trying to get into Nashville, Tennessee right now. It's a big market for motorsports. I definitely think NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports are interested in bringing Nashville Fairgrounds back sometime soon, but there's a lot of red tape in the way right now. It's still a few years down the line, so going to Nashville Super Speedway is a way to build up support in the Nashville area. then maybe at some point we can transition over to that half-mile short track that so many fans desperately long for. Let's look back at that schedule. We're now into July. Road America is being added to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule on July 4th, Independence Day. Road America is a 4-mile road course track in Wisconsin, up near Green Bay, kind of. The Xfinity Series has raced there since 2010. This is huge. July 4th weekend is going to go to Road America. I mean, it's only fitting. The track has America literally in the name, so I guess it makes a ton of sense. Now, similar to what SMI is doing with COTA, where they're renting the track and promoting it themselves, NASCAR is doing the same for Road America here. NASCAR has a deal with them so that NASCAR is actually leasing the track and is going to be promoting the event in that case as well. Road America was heavily rumored to be added to the schedule next year, so I'm not surprised at all to see this. It's put on a good show for Xfinity the last few years, so I'm not against it whatsoever. And with Chicagoland Speedway, spoiler alert, we'll talk about this more in a few minutes, with Chicagoland Speedway losing its one and only date for next year, there's not a whole lot of competition up there in the north Midwest, in the Wisconsin, Illinois area. I mean, I'm not great at geography, but what's the closest track? Maybe Gateway in St. Louis, Indianapolis, I guess, in Indiana. I mean, even those are several hours away at least from where Road America is located. So not a whole lot of immediate NASCAR competition in the area. Being run on a holiday weekend, I think this could be a big entry point for Road America into the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. So that's going to be an exciting weekend. But oh boy, yet another road course. After that, Atlanta gets a second date. Let's stop and talk about Atlanta. So the first Atlanta is March 21st. The second Atlanta date is going to be July 11th. Atlanta Motor Speedway has hosted one Cup Series event a year since, I think, 2011. Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal tweeted this yesterday, a reminder from something we actually talked about many months ago. But he says, Atlanta Motor Speedway getting a second Cup race could be a good sign for AMS's efforts to build a massive $1 billion casino resort there with Foxwoods. Ed Clark said in March that the proposed project was very realistic, but would depend on changes in Georgia law. And you see in these photos right here that these concept art photos that were first leaked to the public many months ago and caught a lot of people's attention then, but have kind of been quieted down for since then. You can see there's the casinos all next to the racetrack. There's a theme park, roller coasters and everything, much more. And as you can kind of see in the background, a possible reconfiguration of the track, maybe back to its old layout, perhaps? That's been proposed. Atlanta Motor Speedway is located about 40 minutes south of downtown Atlanta, and if they're actually going to build a theme park there, I don't know what kind of competition they may have. I know there's a Six Flags park, I think, up near downtown, so again, about 45 minutes away from the track, so that would be some pretty big competition, perhaps. But shoot, Atlanta Motor Speedway, going back to 2 dates, I think there's a lot of drivers excited by this. Drivers tend to love the old, worn-out surface at Atlanta. I am a little nervous, especially going forward beyond 2021, if Atlanta stays on the schedule twice a year. At some point, they've got to repave the track, right? It's so wore out. I mean, you run one lap on tires and you need 4. If a caution, you're getting 4. No questions asked. I mean, the track is just so abrasive. It's almost comical at this point. It typically puts on a pretty decent show by mile-and-a-half standards, so if any mile-and-a-half was to get 2 dates again, I'm sure Atlanta Motor Speedway is fine with most race fans. But certainly an interesting move. And hey, if Atlanta Motor Speedway is actually able to build out all that theme park stuff and like a go-kart track and like a Top Golf or whatever, if they'd be able to build all that around a casino, around the racetrack, shoot, I would happily go to Atlanta twice a year. That sounds like fun. Maybe that's just me because I do like theme parks, but shoot, go for it. Oh man, I hope it happens. After Atlanta is New Hampshire's one and only date on the schedule, and then there's a 2-week break as NBC will be broadcasting the Olympic Games, which have been delayed a full year due to COVID. So there's a 2-week break right there, followed by Watkins Glen and the Indianapolis Road Course, a road course back-to-back 2 weekends in a row. And yes, this means the Indianapolis Road Course is officially replacing the traditional Brickyard 400. A crown jewel event is seeing a major facelift, a major alteration next season. I'm not sure how fans are going to feel about this one. Obviously, the NASCAR Xfinity Series debuted at the track earlier this year as part of a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader, and Chase Briscoe got the win. And I must say, the last 8 or 9 laps, the last segment of that race was some of the best road course racing I have ever seen. So I guess I'm not shocked to see NASCAR in Indianapolis vote to change the Cup race to the road course configuration. I'm sure it's going to put on a very good show next year. I am a little surprised they're moving it away from July 4th weekend. This year, the race was run over July 4th weekend and saw a huge ratings boost as a result. Moving it back into August, I'm a little surprised by that, but of course, like I said earlier, they're putting Road America on July 4th. I'm sure they have a good reason. Well, actually, I know they have a good reason. That August 15th weekend, they're actually going to be a NASCAR and IndyCar doubleheader once once again, and hopefully this one allows fans to attend. That's going to be awesome. That's right, the IndyCar Series, the NASCAR Cup Series, and I would assume the Xfinity Series at the very least are all going to race the road course configuration in the same weekend. That's going to be phenomenal. Ooh, I wonder, this could be a good race for Jimmy Johnson to make his NASCAR return if he wants to run just like a one-off next year. He's already going to be there to race the IndyCar race. Might see Jimmy Johnson pull the doubleheader as well. I hope he does it. He probably won't, but I hope he does. Go Jimmy. Make it happen, man. But I don't know how to feel about this because the Brickyard 400, while it hasn't been super popular with fans, I feel like it's gotten a bad rap ever since the 2008 tire debacle, but over the last decade or so, attendance has dwindled significantly. While the Brickyard 400 is technically considered a crown jewel, and many of the drivers I know love racing at the historic facility. I know earlier this year, actually, when drivers were asked if they should change the Brickyard 400 to the road course layout, I know several drivers, including Kevin Harvick, were against the idea. They love racing at the oval because of the history associated with it. So switching to the road course configuration, in my opinion, kind of takes this out of the running for crown jewel status. I don't know what replaces it if we're going to replace it. Obviously, you got Daytona, you got the Coke 600, you got the Southern 500. What should be the fourth one? The Bristol Night Race? Maybe would get my vote. Maybe you have to put a road course in there. In that case, maybe it still is Indianapolis because it is still the hallowed grounds in Speedway, Indiana. I don't know, but it certainly is going to feel very different watching the Cup Series not race the oval next year. I'm not sure if it's going to have the same weight behind it, but I'm sure it's going to attract a lot of fan attention, especially people who paid attention during the Xfinity race this year and how fantastic that show was. I have a feeling many fans will be excited to watch the Cup cars race on this road course. But yes, another road course. This comes right after Watkins got 2 road courses in a row right before the playoffs start. My goodness. Anyway, we'll keep looking here. After that, Michigan gets their one and only race of the season. That's right, Michigan is losing a date next season. That is a shame, I'm sure, for many fans in the Michigan area. And then the regular season will wrap up once again with the Daytona night race. Very excited about that. This year's was a huge success, I thought. And then really quick, let's just take a look at the 10-race playoffs because there's actually not a whole lot of changes expected next year. Again, Darlington will begin the playoffs, the Southern 500 officially, and then it'll be Richmond and Bristol. The second round will be Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval. The third round will be Texas, then Kansas, then Martinsville. That will be Texas Motor Speedway's one and only points-paying race. It'll be the 4th to last race of the season, the first race of the third round. So Texas and Kansas are basically swapping. That's really the only change to the playoffs from this year to next year. Because after that, you got a Halloween race at Martinsville, and then the championship for the second year in a row will be November 7th at Phoenix Raceway. So there you have it. That is the full schedule. There are still a few more details to hit on. I know it feels like this video is never going to end. I kind of brushed over it, but yes, Darlington is getting 2 races this year. The first race in the spring and then the Southern 500 late in the year. I guess Labor Day weekend if I had to guess. I don't know exactly when Labor Day lands next year, but probably Labor Day weekend as usual. Steve O'Donnell on Twitter today actually confirmed that Darlington, both Darlington races and Nashville Super Speedway, which next year again is a 1 1/3 mile track, will be run using the 750 horsepower low downforce rules package. Heck yeah, I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be extremely excited to hear that. Darlington has been run with the high downforce package the last couple of years, and it hasn't been great. It hasn't been horrible, but it certainly hasn't fit the track best, and a lot of fans and drivers have called for that track specifically to use the low downforce package. Since it is technically less than 1.5 miles in distance, it's sort of an intermediate, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of its own thing. Really excited to see NASCAR make the decision to change the rules package for that track and for Nashville Super Speedway. The low downforce 750 horsepower package will be used at those tracks. NASCAR has not yet confirmed the rules packages that will be used next season, but it's safe to assume they're going to be very similar to what we've seen this year. Of course, that's the last year of the Gen 6 car. They're not going to completely introduce a whole new rules package and make the teams learn something new for just 1 year. That would be senseless. So I said at the beginning of the episode to take a look at all of the road courses added to the schedule. If we step back and look at the 36 race Cup schedule, 6 races next year will be road courses. 7 if you include the Busch Clash being run at the Daytona road course. That is a far cry from just 3 years ago. In 2017, there were 2 road courses on the schedule. Watkins, Glen, Sonoma. Oh my goodness. Again, I'm a little mixed on it. I mentioned a few months back in a video that I feel like the sweet spot for number of road courses on the Cup schedule is like 4, maybe 5. But I'll give NASCAR the benefit of the doubt. I mean, if I look at the road courses that they're planning to have next year, Sonoma's usually a decent race, but it's hit or miss. Watkins Glen is one of the best road courses in the country, I believe. It's really well suited for NASCAR. The Charlotte Roval is 2 for 2 so far since it's been on the schedule, so I think the Roval's a good choice for next year. The Daytona road course being run for the Clash next year didn't really impress anyone this summer, I don't think, so I'm still a little lukewarm on that one. The Indy road course was fantastic for Xfinity this year, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Road America's a solid track. NASCAR's run there for years, so it'll probably be pretty good, and Circuit America's Circuit of the Americas is kind of the big question mark, honestly. The facility is state-of-the-art, fantastic, but as far as the actual configuration, the way the turns are lined up, the elevation changes, all that type of stuff, I'm just not sure how well suited it's actually going to be for Cup Series cars. Will there be enough opportunities to pass, that kind of thing? I just don't think we're entirely sure at this point. It's a big unknown. That's the big question mark that I'm not really sure about next year. To me, when I think NASCAR, I think oval racing. That's what NASCAR does differently than most every other major motorsport in the world. NASCAR usually does pretty well on the road courses, but I do worry that flooding the schedule with road courses like this could be straying a little too far from the brand. Again, though, I'm all in. This is supposed to be the start of the quote-unquote next-gen era in NASCAR. New tracks next year, new car the year after that, new drivers coming in every day, it feels like. So if NASCAR really believes that more road courses are what are going to maintain fan interest and bring in new fans, I'll buy it. I'll go along with it because more often than not, the road courses, especially the new road courses in recent years, have put on good shows for the NASCAR Cup Series. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but I do think these are fair concerns to have. You can't call me a stick in the mud. I'm not saying this is a terrible idea. I'm not saying NASCAR should have not added all these road courses. It's a bit radical. I grew up for 10, 15 years, two road courses a year. Watkins, Glen, Sonoma, one on each coast. That's it. No, everything else is ovals. Well, and then the triangle at Pocono is its own little thing. But now, 6, 7 again, if you count the Clash. So many road courses. We'll see. It might be great. Again, I'm usually a positive guy. I'm usually a very positive guy, and I'm excited to see NASCAR. I want to say NASCAR's listening to the fans. The most vocal fans in the NASCAR world were getting tired of mile and a halves, which is why Chicagoland and Kentucky Speedway are not on the schedule at all next year. That's obviously really sad for people in those communities. Like I said in yesterday's episode, I really hope NASCAR can stay in the Chicago area. That's just such a big market, such a big sports town. It'd be great if they could come up with something to stay in Chicago. Maybe not Chicagoland Speedway exactly, but there have been rumors about a street course around the Bears Stadium. Maybe something like that in years to come. I still think Chicago is a very important market for NASCAR to be involved with. Kentucky is a little different. Kentucky, of course, has only been on the Cup schedule for about 10 years, so I don't have quite the same attachment to Kentucky. It hasn't consistently put on great races, but NASCAR has made it clear that mile and a halves are not the future. If NASCAR starts building more tracks or starts introducing new tracks to the schedule, more often than not, they are not going to be intermediate type racetracks. I mean, Auto Club's a 2-mile track being turned into a short track in the next couple of years. I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's radical. These are some huge changes that NASCAR is making, but I do think now is the best time they've had, the best chance they've had in a long time to make these big changes and possibly see some serious benefit come out of it. There's just so much to react to. I still feel like we just scratched the surface, but NASCAR, as I said at the beginning, delivered on their promise to introduce massive sweeping changes to the Cup Series schedule next season, and I'm here for it. Some of them will pan out, some of them likely won't, but we'll all be here to react to them together over the next many months. Thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it. We covered a lot of information, and I'm curious to know what you guys think of Bristol being turned into a dirt track, all the new road courses added to the schedule, Chicago and Kentucky off the schedule, Texas as the All-Star race, Coda is here. It is happening. I'd be curious to know what you guys think of the 2021 schedule. Let me know down in the comments. I'm sure many of you guys have already left comments. If you've made it this far in the video, you've probably left a comment already. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing this video. Thank you for watching. That is all I've got. Be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel. And of course, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. If you also want to support the show, we upload videos every single day. Check out that top link down in the description below. I greatly appreciate it. Talladega is this weekend. We'll have some more videos up between now and then. We should have some fun guests on the channel here before long. Tonight, if you're watching this the day this is uploaded, Ross Chastain will be on the channel live for the start of the NASCAR Weekly Podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I believe we'll have Noah Gragson on the channel again here in the next couple of days. I'm not entirely sure. I got to work some schedule stuff out, but we'll have some fun guests to talk to before Talladega this weekend. But I will see you all again very, very soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again really soon.